Hello and welcome to this third tutorial on the introduction to Wings3D. In this tutorial, as I said before, I'm going to explain UV mapping and unwrapping for texturing purposes. So I've already mentioned that Wings is kind of like, it's a very small package that is basically just good at modeling quick stuff and also making a rough UV map, or in some cases actually a finished UV map. So this is a pretty crucial part of Wings, and I'm going to try and touch up on that, starting from a few primitives and then moving on to more complex models to unwrap. Now, first of all, a little bit of a bad news, at least for me, is that I've had some serious problems with my computer. Well, basically, I had an HD crash and I lost everything. So that also means that I lost the Eagle model from last tutorial. So in essence, really what that means for you guys is that I'll be unwrapping something different. So I won't be unwrapping the eagle. Not that it matters that much, but yeah. For the first parts, I'm going to just do a few primitives, so a cube and a cylinder, a sphere maybe two, and I'll just move on to some models that I have laying around, and I'll unwrap those and explain everything that you need to know using those models. Alright, so let's get started by unwrapping a cube. It can't get much simpler than this. So let's just create a cube. We've already explained how to do that, and there we go, we have a cube. And we also should probably bring up the geometry graph and the outliner, because we're going to be using those in a little bit. Now, I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller here. Okay. Let's make sure we're in object mode and select our object, which is in this case the cube. And when you right click and go down to the very bottom, you see UV mapping. Now you have three options here, which is direct, for segment, keep previous, and delete previous. I'm going to tell you what that is a little bit later, but for now it's not really important. I'm just going to do direct, and there we go. When you click direct, you get a new window, a new 3D window. The controls are exactly the same, but the UI is a little bit different. It's a separate window, and this is basically the unwrapping window. So one thing that you'll notice is that when you right-click, the menus are completely different, and also object mode is gone, so you can still select the verts, the edges, and the faces. Yeah, and that's really it. Now, I should probably explain a little bit how Wings does this. It's a little bit different. You don't really, it's not really a traditional way of unwrapping. It's actually pretty cool. When you make a selection, so for example, let's say I want to unwrap this cube, so these three faces and then this one, and then these two, I want them separate. So what I can do is make that selection. So that's one part, and that will be a second part of the unwrap, and I can make the selection and then right click and just give it one of these colors. It doesn't matter which one, just let's say chart 1. I can deselect by pressing space, and then that selection will have become the color that I selected. Now you don't have to do this, but I can also select the rest here and just give it a second color, and there we go. And now we made a a split in our mesh. So this will be a seam where the color changes will become a seam. I'll just do a quick unfold to just show that it won't really be a nice unwrap. But you can see that it split the model where the color changed. As you can see, there's two polygons that I selected, and then the rest, it tried to unwrap that, unfold that, like that. Obviously this unwrap doesn't really work quite well, so I'm just going to redo that by going force segment, because if I do UV mapping direct, it's going to bring me back to the mesh, to the already unwrapped UV map that I have already done. So that's really what direct is. When you already have a UV map and you press direct, it's just going to bring you back to the UV mapping window. But when you want to redo it, you can force segment and keep previous, and that's gonna keep our UV map that we already had, but you can redo it, or you can just delete the previous UV map that we had and just start completely over. So let's do that. Let's start completely over here, and well, it's not really hard to unwrap this because it's a cube. So I can just select that, and then it will automatically a section that hasn't got a color is basically the same as having a color. So I can just leave it like this. But there's still obviously a problem with the unfold here. It doesn't really unfold this quite well. So we should probably split it again into we should be able to define a new seam to make this a much better unwrap. So these two edges should basically be also a seam, so that it can unwrap it into like a T shape, right? But that's really quite hard considering we're just using colors here. So it will automatically not make these two edges a seam. So what we can do is right click after making our edge selection and then mark edges for cut. And there we go, they change to green edges, which is the same as the color that you get when you do hard edges. And that's really it. You can unmark it by selecting that and unmark edges, or you can just automatically select all the marked edges, and that's really all you need. If I select everything now, go to continue, and out of all these I pick unfold, it's going to make myself a nice UV map like that. And again, you can see that this is our first color that we selected. This is the second color that I selected. And you can see that these two edges right here have been split right there because I marked them for cut. So basically what you define here is the seams. You can define them manually by selecting the edges and assigning them for cut, or you can actually split your model using the different colors. Or you can use a combination of both. In some cases that's necessary, which in this case was. And that's really all there is to unwrapping in Wings. It's really quite a brilliant and easy way, very simple way of handling it. So let's talk a little bit about the controls in here. So what you do, what happens in the UV mapping window, the 3D one, is quite simple. Just right-click menu, and the controls are the same. But then once you unfold or project or whatever you want to do, you get this actual 2D UV mapping screen. And here the controls are just a little bit different. So again, you can zoom in on your selection by pressing A or Q, depending on your keyboard. So there's just the first letter on your keyboard. You can zoom in on a selection. Scrolling is just the middle mouse button scroll. You can change the position by clicking the middle mouse button so that your pointer disappears, and then when you click again, hold your middle mouse button, you can actually pan the view. So again, click the middle mouse button, click it again, hold it, and then we can pan the view. So that's really it about as far as navigation goes. Just scrolling, panning, that's really all you need. But to control stuff, quite important is the shift, which will help you a lot when you're rotating or moving into a certain position. So you can see that when I hold shift and do move, it's going to move one cube at a time, which is really handy when you're doing stuff like ambient occlusion or whatever, and you have so overlapping and UVs, you can just move them to the side one, and then when you're done, you can move them back. That's really helpful. And for rotating, again, holding shift will snap it into a certain degree angle, and that's really useful to align stuff. Now obviously we still have this weird seam here. we have two parts for a cube, and I would like to have just one part. So let me first of all tell you about the unwrapping texture here. You can see once we unwrapped our model, we automatically got a texture applied to it, which is the default Wings UV map texture, and that will just automatically happen every single time. And it's just a really easy way to tell, you know, if you have any bad stretching or anything like that. It will have appeared in your outliner right here. So, and you also get, so for each unwrap you do, you get a new material. We can delete these actually, and also delete this. We don't really need it. There we go. And we can import a new image that I've prepared, and it should be on here somewhere. Oh yeah, okay. I still need to save it. There we go. And we have our new texture there, and I just want to apply it, so I'm gonna select this texture, click and drag it onto the default material. Then this is going to appear, and I'm going to select diffuse. Then I'm going to click and drag the material onto my selected mesh and assign it. And that's it. There we go. We can see that it's applied, but it's obviously not really aligned yet. So let's go back to UV Mapping Direct. Another way to do that is going Window and then UV Editor window. There we go. And there we go. So let's move this to the side just a little bit. And so we have a good view of our both our mesh and our UV map. And first of all, let's rotate this. There we go, and place it roughly in the right position. And then we need to see which edge this is. Whoops. So the edge that I want to select here is this one, the one near cube, and I can see that this is the same edge right there. So I'm just going to select this, rotate it correctly, like so. Now these two have to align. So what I can do is I select this edge right here. I can right-click and press Stitch, and automatically the second chart, the second UV map part, is gonna get stitched to that. Because I selected this edge, that one isn't going to move at all. So it's really just that easy to unwrap in Wings. Now it's not perfect, obviously, because I didn't really measure the stuff. I just made a 1-minute texture here. But that's really it. That's a nice UV map cube, and yeah, there we go. So let's move on to a little bit more difficult scenario here, which is a cylinder. Alright, so a cylinder this time. Let's just make one, right click cylinder, and there we go. Just going to scale it up a little bit. And again, similarly, I'm going to go UV Mapping Direct. Let's make this window a little bit bigger. There we go. This is the UV Mapping window. And very quickly, just select both of these. I don't really need to do this, but I'm just going to give this a color like that. And there's one more thing. So obviously this right here, the centerpiece is cylindrical, so that's not really going to unwrap properly. So we need to define a seam somewhere in the middle. So I'm just going to pick this one. It doesn't really matter which one here. So this is going to be our seam, and it's going to unfold like this and like that onto a flat plane like so. So we can right click again and do unfolding, and there we go. That's it. we have a very nicely unwrapped cylinder, and that basically took us a second. Uh, Again, I made a very quick texture here. Could just apply this, close that, whoops, assign it, there we go, and then I can put it like so. Scale that up a little bit, press D to redo that last action. There we go, roughly the right position, and that's it. Whoops, I accidentally put it at the bottom, so. Let's try that again. There we go. Alright. So that's it. That's really it. It's super simple to do that. Just you just have to think about the parts that need to be separate in the UV map, and then just select them, give them a different color, and finally just check if you have any closed parts. So this wouldn't be able to unwrap properly, obviously. So you need to define a seam somewhere, and that's just you can just select the edge and do that manually. You have absolute full control over where this seam's going to be, and there's no stuff that can happen that you don't have any control over. And that's really what I like about Wings. And that's it. Yeah, so let's move on to a little bit more difficult Alright, so now I want to unwrap a sphere, and I want to unwrap it kind of like the way a planet, so that I can use a planet texture on it. So kind of rectangular. Let me just import a surface texture of Earth that I found right here. It's loading. There we go. And you can see that it's kind of rectangular. So that's how I want to unwrap my my sphere. So that's a little bit trickier, but it's still actually pretty easy. So let's just select our sphere, and again, UV mapping direct. And this is the UV mapping window. And I can just select, so we obviously need a seam somewhere. It doesn't really matter where, but we need one. So I'm just going to select that like so, and mark edges for cut. And you can see that that actually became a hard edge if you go to shaded mode. And that's really it. So now I want it to unwrap into a flat rectangular shape. So I can just right click, continue, and then what we have here, when I unfold this, it's going to try to maintain its its circular shape, its spherical shape, and it's just generally not going to be very good. So let's just have a look, and you can see like that, that's not really what we want. It wouldn't be really fit the texture. I mean, it's not a bad unwrap. It's a good unfold, but we can't really use it with the texture. So I can just right click UV mapping and keep previous so that I don't need to redo the hard edge selection. You can see the hard edge is still marked for a cut. And I can do projection normal, and that's just going to try to project my polygons on their own normal, which is also, again, not what we want in this case. Camera is just going to project depending on the camera that I have in this window. So if I want to project from the very top, I can do a projection camera. Oh, it doesn't work because it's a closed surface apparently. Let's see. Oh yeah, we lost the marked edges, so let's just redo that quick. I'm just going to select the loop and then deselect half and mark edges for cut. We'll see if it wants to do it now. There we go, and you can see that it just projected from the camera, and that's also not what we want. See if we still have our marked edge, and again it's gone, so just loop, deselect the half, and mark edges. Alright. There's two left, there's sphere map and cylindrical map, and if you think a little bit, a cylindrical map is actually what we want. Because, you have to imagine a cylinder being around this mesh and that being used to project onto. So what we're left with is a cylindrical shape that has a seam through the middle, and it's going to unfold that nicely into a rectangular shape. The only problem is that we have at the top, we have this pinching triangle area, but that won't be too much of an issue. So let's just do that. Let's do a cylindrical map, and there we go. We have a rectangular shape, and we can just scale it horizontally, max horizontal, and that's that, really. Now we have to assign our earth texture, and there we go. That's it. I can just select this and smooth it a couple times using the S keyboard shortcut, and there we go. We have a unwrapped sphere with a little bit of pinching at the top because there were triangles and stuff. But I'm not really too worried about that right now. There we go. That's a sphere unwrapped, just as easy as all the rest. So again, let's move on to just something a little bit more complicated. Alright, so moving on to just something a little bit more complicated. I downloaded this very cool low poly body mesh, and we're going to try and unwrap it. So it shouldn't be too hard. It's quite low poly, but then again, if it's a little bit more polygons, it's really not that much more difficult conceptually. It's just a lot more clicking. So let's just again go to Direct, UV Mapping, to bring up the UV map window. And the way I like to unwrap is just to start out with a simple full color, and then just divide my stuff into separate pieces automatically. So obviously we're going to separate the arms. So just try to select these guys, and that should be good. And just give it a second color. It's just double check that's okay. We can select the n-gons right here that we don't really want on our UV map anyway. And that's a good, a very good simple block out of what I want my UV map charts to look like. So I want this to be one piece, and one piece. Actually, let's split off the hands as well, like so. One more polygon here. Whoops. Give that the same color, and that should be good. I'm just going to continue and unfold that. Now obviously this isn't a good UV map at all, because we have closed surfaces and it just goes mental on it, really. It doesn't really know what to do. But at least we have our charts. We have our separate pieces, and now I can select one of these. I can right click here, UV map direct, and for a segment, and then we have our separate chart, and we can work on this separately. So what do we want to do? I want to have this kind of flip open so that the back is next to it, next to the front. So obviously we need to split off these shoulders, right? So like so. And we're going to need a seam on either one side. I'm just going to pick this one. Okay. So we have a seam there, and now the back is gonna flip open to this position when I unfold. Hopefully. So let's select it, unfold, and let's have a look, and there we go. This is the front, this is the back. Now Wings has a little bit of an issue to get the shapes perfect. So I've already mentioned before that it's quite good to make a rough UV map, but you can always, it's always probably a good idea to go into Max or something else and just kind of finish it off, just the finishing touches. Do a relax, use a relax tool on it and stuff like that. So I can see that's a little bit weird rotated, so I'm just going to try to get it a little bit more straight, and that should be a little bit better. But really, we have our rough UV map is done within a matter of seconds, and from here on we can just perfect it manually inside Wings or even inside another package. I prefer to do it inside another package because they just have a little bit more tools to just get it nice. You can always actually remap stretch optimization, but in this case it's not really going to do much. Or you can just try different projection methods, but this is quite nice. This is what I wanted, basically. Let's move on to an arm. I'm just going to select both so we can do them at the same time, and actually maybe the hands, no, not yet. So for a segment again, give them a color, and then I want the seam to be as, I don't want it to be very visible at all, so I'm just going to select this edge loop that is kind of closest to the body, the most occluded of all, like that, and then mark it for cut. And let's double check if we have them all. Yep. And again, let's see what that gives. You can see on the model itself that it's quite nicely distributed, and yeah, that should be good enough, really. We can move it to the center so that it overlaps, or try to rotate it so that it's a little bit more nicely positioned. You can see that it's flipped, so they're oppositely flipped. I can flip it back like so, and now they should be pretty identical. There we go. And it depends if you want overlapping or not, but I'm gonna just separate them. There we go. And now the hands. Oops. Okay. Again, I can select this one. I want a seam right there. And I'm not really that good at it. I mean, I can't really perfectly envision what's going to happen when I select this and mark it, but we're just going to see. I mean, it's so quick that you can just try different stuff, really, and just hope it works. I'm probably going to need another one around the thumb. Let me think. Let's just have a look first. Yeah, the thumb is kind of weird. So I'm going to need to do something about that thumb as well. Okay, let's select these guys again and just make some changes. So I'm going to select these as well, mark them, and also these, and mark them. Okay. Oh, whoops, I did it wrong on the other one. So I want it to be like that. Yeah. That's going to be a little bit better for this stretching right here. And now obviously we need to fix the thumb as well. So let's have a look. What can we do? So now I wanted to kind of unwrap again next to each other, but the fact that the thumb is right there is a little bit annoying. So let's see if that would fix it. Not this one. That would probably help, like so. And then do it again here. Let's see what that gives. Nope, still pretty weird. This part is good though. So these two faces have been fixed. But this hasn't really progressed much. Okay. I can just give that a different color and then unwrap it like so. Now we can just fix it manually inside the 2D UV-map window. Let's have a look which one is which. Okay. Should be able to stitch that. And then this. Nope. Let me see. Alright, it's that one. Move these around just a little bit. The thumb is a little bit of an annoying area, but it's not too bad. Whoops. That's quite a weird way to do a thumb, but yeah. That's really not that good. I'm just gonna try to redo that. See if I can make something a little bit more neat. It's really not very good. So this seam was good right here. That one, I can keep this. It's gonna unwrap like so. The front and the back. Let's try this. It's gonna give me two pieces. I can fix this manually, just make it a little bit less stretchy. It would probably not be a bad idea to separate this face. And then this one is pretty nasty. Okay. Quite a troublesome thumb here. It's not gonna work. Maybe I can stitch it like so. Okay, that's quite okay. It's a little bit weird, but it's rough UMap, and we can perfect it somewhere else in another package. So yeah, then you just repeat the process for the hand here, and then we have the two n-gons for the other hand, is what I mean. And then we have the two n-gons here, and we don't really need to unwrap these. I can of course, position it inside the cube as you would inside the square, as you would do. That's the same as in any other package, really. But you can see that you can get a really, a very, very, very quick and basic UV map out, and you can just perfect it. Certain areas like this hand is a little bit annoying, but the torso was pretty much UV mapped in a couple of seconds, and that's really what Wings is for. Usually I wouldn't really unwrap something and then not touch it up at all in another package. I always kind of make a rough UV map, block it out, get my different charts, get my seams in correct, and then I can touch up on those manually somewhere else, or using some tools like Relax, or even re-UV map certain areas that I had trouble with in Wings, because it isn't perfect. It is, sometimes it will act a little bit weird, but you can get, usually you can get a very nice, very quick, and, a very useful rough UV map. So there we go. Okay, so finally I'm gonna unwrap this a little bit more difficult model, which is a kind of werewolf slash wolf slash dog model that I made. And we're going to try and wrap this guy. So first of all, I'm going to separate all the different objects, and I'm going to delete the ones that I don't need. So I don't want these. Basically just half of the model is stuff that we don't really need. So delete all that. And now we can split stuff in two. So I'm going to go to orthographic mode and select half of the polygons here. That should be it, and we can delete that. Then just connect these two verts again by selecting them and pressing C, and we can also assign the whole material to this polygon, and that should be right about it. Okay. So first of all, let's unwrap the main head. Whoops. So I already unwrapped it, but I'm going to redo that, obviously. So for segment, delete previous. Let's find it. Okay. And I'm just going to give it a color, first of all. I'm going to give this n-gon a completely different color. And let's just go inside the ear, select these two, and then grow my selection. Whoops. By pressing F over and over. Don't want this. Don't want these. And let's grow a little bit more. Don't want these. I do want these. Alright. Finally clean up the selection. That's my ear. Alright. So I separated that, and we can maybe separate the insides of the eye here. We don't really need to. Well, no, let's just leave it like this. However, I do want to separate the insides of the mouth. Whoops. So again, gonna grow my selection a little bit and deselect this middle face again every time that I grow my selection. So F, deselect it, F, deselect it. Now let's just see how far we got. Okay. Just gonna finish the selection here. let's just already give this a color so I don't need to worry about it too much. Whoops, I want to select these guys as well. Give it that color, and these also. And then moving on to kind of the lips here. There we go. It doesn't really line up nicely there, so. Alright. That's the inside of the mouth. I'm gonna give this polygon also a different color. And yeah, let's just have a look at what this gives us. The ear is obviously not going to work out pretty well. The inside of the mouth is probably going to be quite weird as well, but the purple part should be roughly what we want. Let's move this stuff to the side here. We don't want this. Let's have a look at this. Whoops. That wasn't supposed to happen. There we go. And yeah, it looks pretty good. There's a little bit of a, it starts to squash this and make it really small around the nose. And that's again a situation where the relax tool would help a lot if you bring it into max. We can also, we can try some different projection methods. Projection normal is kind of a cool thing, but it's a little bit, I don't know if it's, yeah, it has some stretching at the bottom and the top. So it's not perfect, but it's kind of, it could use a little bit of work. Again, some relaxing. So you can see this is pretty much a perfect example of what I mean by roughing out a UV map. So this is good. This is our chart that we want, but we need a relax tool. We need a better way of manually making these a little bit more uniformly scaled. And yeah, that's really something that I prefer to do in another package. But it's there. It's a good, rough UV map. I'm going to go with this one, and we can easily fix it somewhere else. There we go. So let's move on to the ears. Let's see what that made. As I expected, pretty messed up. So let's see what we can do. Let's start by giving it, a single color. And I'm going to make the insides of the ear a different color as well. Okay, and maybe this part can have a different color. And it's probably going to wrap a little bit better already. So this inside, really, nobody's ever going to see this. And it's being a little bit annoying, so I'm just going to give it a different color also. And then just cut it into pieces like that. Okay, and now this can be flat, and then the ear is going to UV map hopefully quite nicely. I'm going to cut it open at the back though, so that it unfolds nicely. Yeah, I think it's going to be quite alright. So let's see. This is our main ear part. Okay, so that's the front and the back here. This is the insides, which we can probably stitch. Whoops. So just stitching it by right-clicking, press and stitch when I have the edge selected that I don't want to move, and then you can press D to redo that. And there we go, we stitched that together. This inside, we don't really need that at all, so I could probably just delete it. But for some reason I modeled it. It's quite a while ago that I modeled this. But yeah, this is really just a redundant part. That we can just give a darker skin tone or something. And that's, again, a rough UV map. It looks quite okay when I look at it like this. Maybe a little stretching on the inside here, so I might have to scale this in another package, relax it a few times, but that's roughly okay. Move on to the eyeball here. So that's the unwrap I already did. Let's show you guys how I did that. It's really simple, this one. I just select this, give it a color, and press unfold, and that's it. This polygon gets the whole material so it doesn't get exported, and this is our eyeball with the center here, the pupil, and then, you know, the rest. This is basically, you know, really simple stuff here. Maybe show you guys the teeth. That might be interesting because it's kind of a cylindrical shape, but with a, you know, a bunch of triangles at the top here. You can see I still have this marked edge from last time, and that's basically what we want. We want to separate this, and then we want to mark an edge somewhere, one that we can't really see. So this one would probably be best to do. Let's change that actually, and just mark these, and there we go. If I unfold it, it's gonna make myself an unwrap of a tooth. This being the top, again, this can get the whole material, no problem. Whoops. And again, it's not perfect. There's a little bit, you know, stretching here and there. But again, the relax tool will help and finish that up. I've already mentioned this, but I've never really made an unwrap that is really 100% finished inside Wings. It always has to undergo some kind of touch-up, some kind of editing afterwards. But it's just so much easier to get your rough UV map out there and divide it into the charts that you want. Let's just see what I did for this one. It's just two planes here, and then I should probably redo this. This edge could probably need some more attention here. So I'm just going to select it. Select these, give it a different color. Select these, give it a different color. And select these and give it a different color. Unfold it, and then we get the different parts. There's a little bit of a weird situation going on here. But that's probably just my mesh. Something buggy in the mesh, maybe. I'm not sure. Oh wait, no. No, it just kind of weird. Unwrapped it quite weirdly there. But yeah, the mesh is not really very perfect. You can see it's quite a weird part. Um, this is a pretty weird piece here. It's a bit annoying to unwrap. I should have probably merged these into triangles. But yeah, that's fine. And really on the teeth, that's just a pretty repetitive and boring process. Just the same thing that I did here. I'm not going to make you watch that. That would be pretty cruel. But yeah, for the nose I could also separate the insides or actually remove it entirely. And the tongue is basically another simple object. I gave it a mark right here on the bottom and at the back as well. I don't really need this one actually. Let's try it without and then just give the back a different color. And fold it like this, and that's the tongue. That's a polygon that we don't want. It's going to be gone anyway. And then that's the back, probably around here. And that's our tongue UV mapped roughly. So we can just mirror it back, and you can see still the stretching here. And then also, you know, copy these, combine them. Let's Control I, and then combine, duplicate, click to duplicate them so it's on the same position. And then flip on X, move it just a little bit. Gonna delete this one and then just mirror it. Whoops, I still need to separate it first and mirror it, and that should be right about it. So it's roughly V-mapped. It still needs to be positioned. So the eyeball, the main face here, the ears, and the tongue, and this is the inside of the mouth. I don't think that was actually quite good. We might need to redo this one. Yeah, it kind of gets smaller as it goes to the back of the throat, and which makes the UV quite stretched at the back here. But that's actually not too much of a problem. I mean, I want more attention here than at the back anyway, so that said, it still needs fixing, obviously. It still needs fixing in Max or somewhere else. But yeah, this is really the perfect moment where you can bring in your model and your map into Max, and then just sort these out, make them the correct size so that the pixel distribution or pixel to size rate is equal across the entire UV map. Redo certain areas like this, and also clean up certain areas using the tools in Max to really just perfect this. But really, I don't know how long this took me. Maybe, I mean, 15 minutes or maybe 10 minutes, and it's pretty much done. I mean, 5 minutes of touch up and it's done pretty much. Uh, you can obviously, spend way more time to really get it perfect. But in Wings, it's probably not gonna give you a perfect UV map unless you really start tweaking the verts one by one. So yeah, I'm pretty honest about that. It's not like it's not like I wanna advertise Wings or anything. It does have weaknesses, and one of the things about UV mapping is that you shouldn't expect to have a finished unwrap, or well, it really depends on what you want or what satisfies you. But generally, I'm never satisfied about something that Wings did for me. As far as the unwrapping goes, I usually always tweak it a little bit more inside some other program, but it's really a lot quicker to do it this way, to rough it out and then fix it up a little bit more in a different program than actually doing it from scratch in a different program like Max. At least for me, this is a quicker way for me to do it. So yeah, that was the tutorial on UV mapping. Really, it's quite simple. So marking edges and marking and selecting colors, and that's really it. It's a kid could do it really, and that's what I love about this program. It's so simple. That was the UV mapping tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. And in the next tutorial, I'm going to talk a bit more about that, about the weaknesses and the strengths about Wings, and the stuff you shouldn't expect from it, and the stuff that you should. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye.